Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today we are going to be taking a look at Flesh Forest by B.L. Overman. We will also be talking about Flesh Forest Origins, and which is a tie-in novel, or a tie-in novella, rather. It ties in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy. Sorry, my camera's a little askew. There we go. It ties in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy with to this book, to Flesh Forest. So we'll be talking about that as well. I'll be reviewing the two books as one, accounting for the difference in length. So, for example, if Flesh Forest Origins had a shit ton of typos, but this book, Flesh Forest, did not have a shit ton of typos, I'd even the scores out accordingly based on how long that book is versus the actual, or how long that novella is versus the actual book. Doesn't really matter. Going to be doing a number of things in this video. Going to be giving you a blurb, going to be giving you some basic book information. We're going to be talking about a content sample, which is just kind of a novelty trigger warning thing. We'll be talking about I will be giving you a book review, including a rating or a series of ratings for different aspects of the book. And I'll be doing a plot summary. So, if all that sounds interesting, stick around. I have been sick. I have horrific postnasal drip. I have had horrific allergies. So I apologize if my voice is all kind of fucked. All right, I'm probably gonna have to clear my throat a lot. There's gonna be lots of cuts. It's fine. Sorry, I'm out of it. I'm tired. I'm sick. We're just gonna get into it though. This book is 223 pages, broken up into 17 chapters. Flesh Forest Origins, the tie-in novella, is 4 chapters, and you can sign up for that as a freebie on the publisher's website, Scirotica.com. I will leave a link to that website in my description box so you can get that freebie if you wanted to read the tie-in novella. It isn't necessary to understand what's going on, really. You can kind of leave it as a mystery if you want, but if you're interested in the series as a whole, if you're watching this video, you're probably interested in the series as a whole. So sign up there. You can get that freebie. Sign up for their, I think it's a mailing list or something. I don't know. That being said, talking about you being interested, this is the 5th video I am making for this series. This is the 5th book in this the Primeval One series by B.L. Overman. If you have not watched those other videos or read those other 4 books, you don't technically have to. The author marketed this one as kind of an entry point. However, for this video, you're going to have to. So I don't even know why I said that. Again, I'm sorry. I'm very sick. Or I was very sick, and now I'm just really tired. You have to for this video to make sense, because I'm going to be referencing a lot of the shit that I've said in the past videos. So if you haven't watched those, I'm going to either link to the first video in this series or the playlist if I can do that. I've never done that before, so I don't know if I can link a playlist in the top corner. But yeah, click on that. I go through all of the other 4 books: Amazonian Euroboscis, Yoni Flower, Lizzie's Flower Glizzy, Amazonian Euroboscis Outbreak. Some of those are better than the others, but you know, if you're interested in the series as a whole, go watch those videos or go read those books. So that being said, I'll give you a quick blurb. In the book Flesh Forest, a boy and his friends stumble across a horrific blight caused by an unknown to them species of plant. Will they survive and be the saviors, or will they succumb to the Flesh Forest? You have to read to find out, or I guess watch this video. We're going to jump into our content sample now. As I said, if you're unfamiliar, kind of a novelty trigger warning experience. If you were to pick up a copy of Flesh Forest or Flesh Forest Origins, or I guess both of them at one time, you would find all of the following. You have your bog standard gore, torture, mutilation, and death. You also have sexual abuse in the book, including necrophilic acts? Maybe? Question mark? It'll make sense to you if you've seen the past videos where there's a lot of having sex with things that were once human but are no longer human but are still technically alive as humans. So, necrophilia? They're not really dead, but they are dead. Who knows? I didn't include that in my content samples for Lizzie's Flower Glizzy or the Yoni Flower, but In retrospect, I'm going to, at least now, because I included incest in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy, which is the same fucking argument of, well, it was technically someone you were related to, but they're dead, but also they're not dead, and they're not even really human anymore, so, either way. There's also a shit ton of vomit, especially in Flesh Forest Origins. Lots of vomit, lots of people puking their guts out because they see gross things, being forced to puke their guts out because they're being filled up with gross things. Lots of vomit. And then just the book is generally filthy. Lots of just generally filthy scenes. And that's really it. If you're familiar with a lot of my other content, you'll know that that's a pretty bare bones content sample for something like this. But, it's not really extreme horror. It's more dubcon plant smut. So now that our content sample is out of the way, we are going to jump into our review. And I've been doing a thing that in retrospect is irking me quite a bit. I have a review section, and then I've been treating the ratings as almost a separate section, and that's kind of dog ass in my opinion. Like, what the fuck? Like, ratings are a key part to a review, at least to the reviews that I give. They are a key part. So the fact that I'm spewing a bunch of nonsense about different aspects of a book, and then proceeding to give you ratings for those different aspects, and then re-spewing all of the nonsense about the book while giving you those ratings to justify those ratings, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time. So it's one and the same is really what I'm saying. If they have anything to say that is not directly related to a given rating in my rating system, I'll say it beforehand. But everything I wrote down directly correlates to one of the aspects of this book that I'm going to rate. So why the fuck would I say it now and then say it again? Like, that's useless. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time. We're not going to do it. So I have nothing to say that's not rating related, so we're going to jump right into ratings. You can probably glean from how I've been talking about it, but my rating system, basically, I take a few aspects of the book, rate them on a scale from 0 to 10. These first numbers are rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 5 is completely mediocre, nothing wrong with it, not bad, not good, it's there. 10 is the greatest, 0 is the worst. Pretty fucking simple. For Flesh Forest by B.L. Overman, for your plot and plot direction, I gave it a 6. The plot overall, I really enjoyed. All right? Really, I am finding that I am enjoying this series. I am enjoying the Primeval 1 series. I didn't so much like the first book in the series, The Amazonian Utero Bosses. I thought that was borderline abysmal in certain stints of its writing. But as the books have gone on, I feel that the author has grown as an author, which, you would fucking hope. And they've come into their own, kind of. And I think I said this a lot with Amazonian Utero Bosses Outbreak, because I really fucking enjoyed that one. The books are better. The books are getting better. I'm enjoying the plots more. I feel like I'm more involved in the plots. And that's the case for the Flesh Forest, right? Or Flesh Forest, rather. I feel like I'm getting involved in the plot. I enjoy the direction of the plot. I like where it's going. I want to read the next book as quickly as possible as soon as it comes out to see what happens to one of the characters. But you may be saying, well, if you're gushing so many fucking grannies about this shit, why is it a 6? Why is it not an 8 or a 9? There's some issues, okay? This has happened in the past, okay? And I can forgive this specific thing in the past when it happened. I think it happened in the Amazonian Utero Bosses Outbreak. It was a recap, okay? And recaps can be done well. My complaint, I believe it was the Amazonian Utero Bosses Outbreak. My complaint was it wasn't done well. It was just a list of all the things that happened in the previous book, right? Not done well. Not great, okay? A good example of a recap that I don't know that it was necessarily intentional, in Lizzie's Glizzy Flower, or Lizzie's Flower Glizzy. I always want to call it Lizzie's Glizzy Flower, but it's Lizzie's Flower Glizzy, I think. Now I'm questioning it. In the Lizzie book, at the end, when Lizzie meets Allie, she gets a whole recap of everything, but it's packaged as a presentation about the yoni flower, explaining it to her, but it's really kind of a recap of everything that happened in the previous book. I don't know that it was necessarily intended to be a recap, but that is a great example of how you can weave a recap into a novel without it just being a list of things that have happened. And that was forgivable in the Amazonian Uteroboscis because that was the fourth book, and it needed to recap the first book. Okay? So that's forgivable. There's a lot of time there. I think it was only like 2 years, but still, that's a good bit of time. You might want to recap it for your reader, okay? In this one, I don't fully remember the circumstance, but at one point the character passes out, or one of our characters passes out, and when they wake up, they go through a mental recap of all of the events that have happened, and it's very similar to how it was in, again, I believe it was the Amazonian Uteroboscis, where it's just a paragraphed list of all of the events that have happened. But we just read about them. We just read those events. We just read those events, and then the character lost some of their memory because they were pumped full of sedative drugs, and now they're telling us the events again in list-like order. There's a few other issues aside from the recap thing that irked me. Speaking of unnecessary things like a recap, there are 2 dream scenes in this book that do nothing for the plot. They're the very standard character goes to sleep and he imagines like the worst case scenario happening. He's being killed, he's dying, that kind of thing, and then he wakes up, he snaps awake, he checks to make sure that he's not dying, that kind of shit, right? Very standard. I believe R.L. Stine did shit like that a lot in the Goosebumps books, but it's been a while. It's a nothing burger. It's a waste of time. As I was talking about wasting time earlier, it's a waste of my time, it's a waste of the author's time, okay? You don't need to flesh out your book with unnecessary shit like that. 2 dream scenes, almost back to back, and they're like full page and a half each. It's just not necessary. And you could argue the second one gives us kind of an insight into the character, like their mindset at the time, but we already know what their mindset is like because of what the fuck they're going through, obviously. So them imagining the worst case scenario while they're asleep doesn't really do anything, considering they're imagining the worst case scenario and talking about the worst case scenario the entire time they're awake. So we already know they have anxiety about that. Them dreaming about it doesn't really give us anything. I want to say this as well before I go any further. If you're here, I'm assuming you've either watched my last video in full or my previous videos in full, or you've read the books, because it doesn't really make sense that you'd be wanting me to review this if you weren't interested in the original books. So I'm going to be doing some like light spoilers for the previous books in this review if it comes up. I've already done it a little bit talking about Allie and Lizzie, but fair warning, this next thing is kind of a bit of a spoiler, but I'm assuming that you've already mostly, I mean, this is the 5th book in the series. I'm assuming you're mostly like in tune at this point. Anyway, there's a continuity error that I picked up on, and I don't know if I just missed something that was said in an earlier scene in this book, but in the Amazonian Uteroboscis, Lena lets the world know about the Uteroboscis outbreak. It's mentioned in it's mentioned throughout the ending of the last book in the series, and it's mentioned a good bit throughout this book in the series, also through the ending of Lizzie's Flowery Lizzie. So that happens, right? And she's worried she's going to be found out as the cause of the Uteroboscis outbreak, but that never happens. She's worried about it, and it never happens. She's able to keep up the story of her bringing one back and her friend being infected or whatever the fuck. In this book, our main character makes a statement about how she's to blame for the outbreak. Randomly, like it's common knowledge. Not like he was told about it, but like it's common knowledge in the cultural zeitgeist. And unless I missed something between the conversation he and Lena had in the scene before, which I don't think I did because she didn't really say much about who she was. That's just an error. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's just something I picked up on. And then one last thing, there is in the opening a recap, again, another like recap-esque thing, and it's so vague, and it's really hard to talk about without spoiling the book, so I'm gonna just go around it. It's kind of like a recap, like I was talking about earlier, but it is a recap. It is a character who is in a predicament recapping the events that led to their predicament. But that's not really the issue because we don't know anything about this character. So him recapping events is really not the issue. It's so vague. It's an attempt to leave so much up to the plot to fill in later on, and it's so, let me see if I can find it really quick. It's so fucking vague. Like this kind of shit. But then I saw and heard something that made me believe continuing was the right thing to do. It didn't take long, blah, 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 for me to realize why I should avoid letting the stalk's black spikes touch my clothes. It wasn't until I was a few feet away from a situation that I realized something's wrong. It wasn't until I stopped focusing on dodging the quilled stalks that I finally looked up and understood why something was wrong, but it's not explicitly said why something was wrong. It's so vague. And it wouldn't annoy me if it was one vague statement, but it's back to back to back. Something was wrong. I didn't realize this until I realized something was wrong. I didn't realize why this person was doing this until I realized that something was wrong. And it's just nothing is explicitly stated. And it's just like 2-3 paragraphs of that kind of shit. And it's like, what are we doing here? If you're not going to tell me what the fuck is happening, why are we even bothering doing a recap? Anyway, that's it for your plot and plot direction. Sorry, that was a lot of shit. But it was really good and I really got into it. And then there's just some shit that just kept dragging it down by its little fucking claws. So, we're going to talk about the tone now. Tone was a 4. I overall have nothing to say about the tone except for a couple of things. I overall have nothing to say about the tone except for a couple of things. Nice. The author tries to write a romantic scene that does not come off romantic at all. Like the author tries to create a connection between two characters and it just kind of falls flat. This kind of falls more into the prose category, but the phrase "get lost in each other's eyes" is used unironically. It's just a bit much. I kind of got lost outside of it, if you get what I'm saying. So it's a 4. Characters and character development is also a 4. The main character is decently developed. I enjoy his character. The other characters that he meets at the end of the book, who are from the previous novels, are also very decently developed because they were the protagonists of their own novels. His friends, the main character's friends, are not really developed very much. There's one of them is decently developed because we get a pretty decent section from his perspective where we kind of learn a little bit about him. But the other two, one of them we don't get a perspective from. The other one, again, he's just flat. He's just kind of like nothing. So we get his perspective at 1 or 2 points, I believe, but it's not like developmental. So, I mean, you have 4 characters. Maybe I would feel a little bit more for them when they get into situations that aren't great if they were developed a little more. It's not really that big of a complaint, just more something I noticed. Grammar typos is a 3. There are, that I could find, no typos in this. There's probably 1 or 2, but I could find no typos in this book. Okay? Flesh Forest Origins, on the other hand, it's not like Zola level of typos, but there are a lot of typos for a 4-chapter novella. A lot of typos. All right? So that drags it down from a 5 to a low 4. Okay? I had this complaint in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy as well. This book unironically uses the word Riz multiple times in a manner as if it's just normal speak. I'm sorry, but no. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. And there's another situation that's kind of like that, dealing with Gen Z slang, that's also very similar to something I complained about in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy. We'll get to that. That's more of a I want to say a prose thing. We'll go with prose. A lot of this shit is very lines blurred between these ratings, but dialogue's a 4. It wasn't great. I The author intended to make the friends use bro speak with each other. Like, bro, I fucked that chick. I clapped her cheeks, bro. Bro, I'm gonna riz this girl up at the party, bro. Ugh, it's not great. I get why it was done. And for the most part, I would say that it achieves its goal. But there is just some dialogue in the book that is just so cringy and just not great that I lowered it to a 4. I'm not lowering it because it's bro speak, because obviously there's a purpose for that, and I think most of it was done very well to the effect of trying to get these guys to sound like jackasses. But there were a few lines that went a little bit above and beyond that were just a little. And then again, like the Riz thing, like that, like these people should not be using the word Riz in conversation. I'm sorry, you shouldn't. You just, no, just no, just no. Your prose is gonna be a 5. It's all right, not bad, not good. There is one scene that's a bit much, and it's the thing I was alluding to, very similar to Lizzie's Flower Glizzy. The character, our main character, randomly thinks about one of the yoni flowers, the ones that look like a vagina, as a flowussy. All right? And if that was included in a line of dialogue, I would probably laugh out loud because that's just a funny thing to include in the book. But it's realistic. It's realistic enough. I think that's more of a dead slang, not dead like Riz. I mean, Riz was never used unironically, except for by complete degenerates. But the flowussy thing, that's it's kind of still a little bit funny, kind of. But the character thinks it. He's like, oh yeah, that looks like a flowussy. And then the rest of the paragraph, the next 2 to 3 sentences, is explaining the slang, the lingo. It's like, yeah, my generation started adding ussy onto anything that looks like a pussy online, which isn't even. This was my complaint as well in Lizzie's Flower Glizzy. It's like a Chat GPT-esque definition. If you've ever had like a definition from an AI or something where it tries to like compartmentalize a definition into something that it's not, if that makes sense. Great example of this. I downloaded the vocabulary app, and it was very clear they were using AI for a lot of these definitions, and they defined like a leg day as something that's very challenging, like a leg day for your mind, which I've never heard that used like that. So it's like a combination of like hallucination and trying to compartmentalize something that's a little bit more abstract. Well, I mean, in that case, it's just it's a fucking leg day. But like in this case, like the ussy thing, it's a little bit more abstract than the description that we get, and it just feels a little clunky. Like we add on ussy to anything that looks like a vagina, which again, not really how that slang works. It is, but also it's used in other contexts. But it's just I can't believe I'm fucking debating this with myself to a camera. I'm debating the fucking ussy joke with myself in front of a camera. Oh god. Is it too late for me? It's probably too late for me, if I'm honest. I'm reading this shit. I'm reviewing this shit. It's probably too late for me. Anyway, slang, weird, yada yada, blah blah. Personal enjoyment, it was a 6. I really liked the plot. I really liked the direction. I'm really looking forward to the next book. There were some issues. There were some errors. I liked it. I enjoyed it. These next 2 numbers are your disturbing factor and your gross out factor, rated on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is not gross, not disturbing, and 10 is the most gross, the most disturbing. For your disturbing factor, Flesh Forest, including Flesh Forest Origins, is a 6. There's a lot of really, really disturbing shit in Flesh Forest, and specifically in Flesh Forest Origins, there is one of the most abysmally horrific deaths that I've ever read. Ever. I would say ever, actually. And then your gross out factor is a 3. some gross shit in Flesh Forest, a lot of gross shit in Flesh Forest Origins, and packed into such a small fucking container, like 4 chapters. It's pretty gross overall. And again, the main novel, there's some gross shit. It's nothing like Lizzie's Flower Glizzy level of gross shit, but it's pretty fucking gross. Origins is easily on that level, if not way past it. So, it kind of evens out. Ratings and review and all that good shit out of the way, we're going to jump into a plot summary now. My throat is annoying the shit out of me. It's like vibrating, and I can hear it like in the back of my ears. We're gonna get this shit over with before I have a fucking conniption because of that garbage. We're gonna jump into a plot summary now. I'm going to be spoiling the major plot points of the book to you. I'm gonna be leaving a lot of shit out because, honestly, just with the major plot points, not a lot happens. Like, a lot happens in between the major plot points, but not a lot that I would really give a shit to tell you about. So, if you don't want spoilers, now's your time to jump off. As always, I specifically leave parts of the plot out of a given summary, even if it could be included and still be considered a summary overall. Just so that if you were to go and read the book, you would have a very different experience. I would highly recommend you go and read the book. I will leave a link in the description, as I always do, to where you can buy the book. I will also leave that link to the website where you can sign up for freebies. And we're going to jump into a plot summary now. So, our main character, Danny, and his friends are traveling to a local lake party marking the end of the summer. On the hike there, they come across a yoni flower in its linga stage, aka the flower glizzy. They call it a dong cap mushroom or some shit. Shortly after that, they come to a giant blight in the middle of the forest that has killed everything in a sizable clearing. The clearing is covered in something meat-esque, which resembles yoni flower pod rind. Again, reiterating, a lot of the shit I'm saying not going to make sense if you haven't at least watched those videos, if not read the books. And there are tentacles all over it that resemble the thing that went up Allie's friend's vagina. In the yoni flower review, I called it a root because that's kind of how it was portrayed in the book. But now it's very clear that they're tentacles, and they have a little pine cone shaped tip, and then they have quills all over them with sticky ends that will stick to you. In the center of the clearing is a girl in the fetal position. The girl yells out and the boys go to save her. The boys find that the tentacles lean towards them whenever they get too close to them, and that the girl reacts whenever they do something specific on the meat mass. One of them throws a rock on the meat mass and she yells, that kind of shit. They also then realize, too late, that the girl is dead and being used as a puppet by the superorganism, whatever the fuck the blight is, to lure in more victims. 3 of the boys get latched onto by tentacles, but Danny manages to escape even though he was grabbed. The spot where he was grabbed rapidly begins mutating into pod mass, and he starts cutting his flesh off with a knife. Allie and Lizzie, from Lizzie's Flower Glizzy and the Yoni Flower, come across Danny on their way to the superorganism, which they have dubbed the Flesh Forest. They take Danny to Allie's house to treat him. By this point, Lena has arrived. She was planning to visit Allie at the end of the last book, Uteroboss's Outbreak, so we're now after that. I'd assume the next book is going to pick up from when she arrives and then past where Danny's whole story happens. Anyway, Lena begins cutting away the infected flesh while administering an IV drip of the Uterobossa slime, hoping that it will kill the fungal infection. Danny then has everything about the Yoni flower and its behavior explained to him. He is also told the origin of the Flesh Forest. The Flesh Forest origin is not explained in the actual novel, but it is explained in Flesh Forest Origins, so I'll just tell you about that right now. It was created when Savannah, one of Lizzie's friends from Lizzie's Flower Glizzy, found Jake's, which is another kid from Lizzie's Flower Glizzy, linga flower in the forest and took it up the ass. Which, if you know how the flower works, that's not the right place for it to go. It got stuck, invaded her body with little tendril root thingies, filled her up completely with pod slime, and then suffocated her to death and connected her brain to Jake's, birthing the superorganism. It's a lot more than that. It's fucked. She gets this thing stuck up her ass, and it fills her up from all of her intestines up through her stomach with pod slime. She then starts continuously vomiting, and it pours out of her mouth to the point where she can't like, breathe through it, and she suffocates to death, stuck to the ground through a fucking flower in the ass. The book ends with Danny filming, at the direction of Allie, one of his friends rising from the flesh forest, going into the woods, and burying himself. He then contemplates if the treatment is working and whether or not he will suffer the same fate as all of his friends. And the book ends. And that's really about it for our video. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I always read my comments, so drop you a heart, drop you a reply if it's something I can reply to. As always, my opinions are my opinions and my opinions alone. I would highly recommend you form your own opinions. It's a normal fucking thing to do. I'd recommend you read this book. I believe it's really cheap as an ebook, so you can go find that. Go get the freebie from the website. I'll link both of those things in the description. What else? I think that's about it. Yeah. See ya.